I'm honored to welcome you this afternoon to the celebration of life service for Richard Leon Adams, who has returned home to his Creator and Lord. Richard may have lived out his working years in California and his retirement years in Oregon, but he wanted to be sure that a stop along the way to heaven included one more stop in his hometown of Mountain City. So we gather this afternoon to remember and celebrate the life of a man who everyone around here called Leon, but who was also known as Dad and Grandpa and Great-Grandpa and whatever Carol might have called him, depending on the situation, I'm sure.
My prince.
But there you go. But I understand that he actually didn't hear what she called him as long as she called him in time for dinner. And since we're in his hometown now, I'm going to refer to him as Leon, because I think that's what everybody in here at least remembers. But most of all, we gather this afternoon to honor God and give thanks to Him for sharing Leon with us during his time on this earth. So on behalf of Carol and Gina and the rest of the family, I thank you for sharing these few moments with us today. John 14, we find Jesus comforting his disciples. He has washed their feet, an act of true servant leadership. And he has predicted his betrayal by Judas and the denial of Peter. And he knew his crucifixion was near. And so he sought to comfort his disciples because he knew they would not fully understand what was about to come until the prophecy of his death, burial, and resurrection had been fulfilled. And so he said to them, "Do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God. Believe also in me. My Father's house has many rooms. If that were not so, would I have told you that I am going there to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that you may also be where I am. You know the way to the place where I am going." These words provide us, I think, as flawed people, with comfort even today, as we grieve the loss and celebrate the life of Leon Adams, a man who knew the way to the place where Jesus was going, the place where Jesus is now, and the place where Leon is now with him. Our journeys on this earth take many different directions. For some, the journey never takes us far from the place of our birth. I know many people, lots of friends, many of my own family, myself included, who have never ventured very far from Mountain City, at least for very long. For others like Leon, his life's journey took him to the other end of this great and vast country. But there seems to be something about these mountains and these valleys that never lets go of their heart. Leon left Mountain City after graduating from Johnson County High School in 1954. He studied engineering at Tennessee Tech before following his brother to California. And he was smart and hardworking, spending 40 years helping design and build the Los Angeles freeway system. And when he was finished, he was smart enough to move out of Los Angeles and away from those same freeways, retiring to Oregon, a beautiful and peaceful place where Edwina and I had the pleasure of visiting with Leon and the love of his life, Carol, when we were there on behalf of Melanie. And I first became acquainted with them when their daughter, Gina, came to Milligan as a student back in the mid-1990s, because she's smart, like her dad, and she knew where the best Christian school was located, right down the road from where her dad grew up. And I'm sure she had memories too of family reunions and visits to East Tennessee. And I suspect that she heard the mountains calling her name to come to Tennessee for college, and she did. As I said, among my first students, and eventually we made the connection that her father and my mom were in the same graduating class from Johnson County High School. And she was also smart, maybe even a little smarter than her dad, because she decided to stay here after college, and I'm glad that she did. But over the subsequent years, I've been privileged to get to know him a little better, and as I said, Edwina and I were able to visit with him and Carol in Oregon, where we heard all about their family while they showed us around Salem, the place where they spent many happy years of retirement. And we witnessed their commitment to the church, both their own congregation and also to the broader church through their support of things like the Oregon Christian Convention, one of the oldest and largest gatherings of the Christian church. Leon's faith and commitment never wavered throughout his life. And we were able to see them occasionally when their travels brought them back to Mountain City, a place I know he loved very much, especially because of the family and friends he had here. And I know he was especially close to members of his Johnson County High School graduating class of 1954, because I frequently heard my mom tell me about how eager he was to attend class reunions and how hard he worked to make sure as many people as possible would come to their frequent gatherings. And they gathered like every year, not just every 5, 10, or 20 years, but a lot. He grew up in this very church, and I learned just this week that his grandfather helped build this very building. So his roots here were deep. Carol told me this week that she could always tell a difference in it when he was in Tennessee, when he was home. And my mom shared with me something he had written a few years ago, I guess, as part of a class reunion project they were doing. And he said this at the end of recounting a lot of his memories, his travel and different historical things. He said, with all these memories of family, travel, historical events, etc., I have always been thankful of my heritage and have been blessed by having grown up in East Tennessee. I am grateful that I was fortunate enough to have been able to attend JCHS. I'm very thankful for the wonderful teachers we had. I appreciate having known so many great friends and classmates at JCHS, and I consider it an honor to know each of you, and I wish each one of you many more years of good health and happiness. Something I know he would say today if he were here with us. So, what does Leon's life say to us as we look back on 85 years of faithful living? From here to California, to Oregon, and back here again. In his own quiet way, Leon taught us to live like Jesus. His loyalty, his love for family, friends, and the Word of God should be a lesson for us all. To live our own lives with humility, with love, and with faith. And so we should not let our hearts be troubled. Because he knew the place where Jesus was going. And Leon is with Jesus now, free of the pain and the discomfort brought about by age and disease. And now his life's journey brings him back home to Mountain City, to Johnson County, a final stop on this earth before we lay his earthly remains to rest. And being laid to rest in Johnson County was something he frequently told Carol he wanted. Because you just can't get these mountains out of your life. And how fitting it is that his journey would be this big, long, round trip, ending where it began. And how inspiring it is. And what a testament to Leon that the evidence of his presence here can be seen in those who are with us today. And many who are not. Family and friends who have been impacted by his patient, listening ear, his gentleness, his kindness, and his faith. And most of all, it is fitting that we thank God today for sending Leon our way, a person in whom we have seen the grace and beauty of Jesus Christ himself. May we live our lives the same way, always remembering our roots, never forgetting those who influenced us, and always, always leading others toward God. Gina Reynolds, his daughter, has words from the family.
I feel like reference stories they told of the family, and I'm not sure those have been screened by me, so don't believe everything they told you. I'm honored to be here today and share about Dad on behalf of my brothers and the rest of the family. As we reflect back on life in a service like this, we tend to highlight the dates when one was born and when they passed. But it's really the dash in between those 2 years that I want to focus on. And think about what that dash really represents. Who they were, what they did, and how they lived. But let me first tell you a bit about what it represented for Dad. I'm going to call it his Dad Dash. And it will be a few of my key observations of his 85 years. First of all, he was an amazing, loving husband to my mom. I would still catch them, even after 51 years, holding hands, catching a little kiss when I didn't think I was looking, and just being truly loving of each other. He was very family focused, both in the present. My older brother said in our service in Oregon that he loved the socks off of his kids, and he really did. But he was still connected with the past as well, with his appreciation of genealogy, his reunions, and he often told stories of how much he enjoyed Sunday family meals up at the old Jerry Wilson home place here in Mountain City. As Bill said, he never forgot his roots. He spoke so highly of the class of 1954 Johnson County High School and his Mountain City home, and that's always how he referred to it, his home. He attended as many of those family and class reunions as possible, and often brought us back here as kids to visit and instilled the importance of family in us. He was an incredibly devoted son, brother, uncle, cousin, and friend. I also knew him as a strong leader in our church, as the chairman of the board of elders, a Sunday school teacher, chairing many committees all through my life as a kid and even as an adult. He was a boss and mentor to many over 40 years in the state of California. An incredible tour guide. He knew those crazy LA freeways by heart. It was amazing. Loved his time as a tour guide when he worked for America by Rail, getting to travel on his beloved trains and show folks around the country. He loved it when family and friends would visit, always up for an adventure. I'll recall one time when Andy and I were dating. He wanted to show Andy around LA, so we seen lots of different sites. Got into one particularly scenic part of town and he wanted to capture a picture, so I said, okay, Andy, get out. And at that exact moment, we heard it was either a gunshot or backfire. I promised Andy and I really did love him. I wasn't trying to get rid of him at the time. But that just made him so happy to show folks around. He was an amazing green thumb who took great pride in his yard. And my dad was Google before Google was Google. He knew a little bit about everything, it seemed. His love of books on an incredibly wide variety of topics helped him know just a little bit. He called himself a jack of all trades and a master of none. But if he didn't know about something, he tried very hard to learn about it. And I think the latest technologies both amazed and frustrated him at the same time, but he just wanted to be part of it. He always would wonder, what would his dad, our grandpa, think of something like the internet, iPhone apps, the fact that my younger brother could call and be his IT tech support from 1,000 miles away. How is that possible? But most of all, my memory of his dad Dash was him being our dad. He was our hero and our mentor. He always gave such rational, sage, experienced advice. He was a fun guy with a very dry, witty sense of humor. He was never the loudest guy in the room, but he truly lived by example. Laid back, very rarely ever raised his voice. Seldom in a hurry or a rush, and to my knowledge, never had a moving traffic violation in over 70 years of driving. He was gentle and kind, with that kind smile that you're seeing flash up on all these photos. He never met a cat he didn't like, and he never passed a train out on the road that he didn't stop to take it in like it was the very first one he'd ever seen. He was highly analytical. He was my go-to math advice guy all through school. And his standard answer as we would talk about those crazy math word problems, when a train was leaving the station heading north at 15 miles an hour, and another station was leaving heading south at 30 miles an hour, how long would it be until it rained in Salt Lake City, right? One of those crazy math problems. His answer was, doesn't matter as long as somebody's on one of those trains. He was an excellent storyteller and secret keeper. If you know my family, we have pulled many surprises on each other over the years. And whether he was the recipient of or involved right in the middle of that surprise, seemed to bring him such great joy. As I said, he loved to travel. Some of his favorite places were going to the islands of Hawaii and California redwoods. But he had such a knack for knowing when to stop and see along the way. He was always up for an adventure. Sometimes I think he was an instigator. Those on the back row from the class of 1954, I'm sure you have stories you could tell of he and Bob Sluter back in the day. I'll be up here after the service if you'd like to share some more. Expert, milkshake maker, picture taker, and memory creator, even in his last few weeks. And I have so many memories to hold on to, but some that I'll cherish the most are just from being in the moment when I was with him and Mom last month. Conversations in the car on the way to and from the doctor, sitting on their deck and talking about what next after the fires they had and the ice storm had done some damage to the yard. Watching old home movies, watching myself age, that's not the point, but watching those old home movies and reminiscing, working the crossword puzzles at the breakfast table, and even in the hospital as he would take my hand and begin to write letters to form words and couldn't talk. Though he got to, the more letters he wrote, the faster he wrote. And I would say, slow down, Dad, the speed round, I can't keep up. But he was just so determined to want to communicate. Sunday night before he passed away on Monday as we left, I will forever have burned in my mind that big smile, the same smile you see on the photo here. He was sitting up, saying he'd see us in the morning. But the biggest memory I have is of him being Dad. So let me tell you what Dad stands for. The first D, devoted. As I said, still holding hands with Mom. But they picked up flowers together. It was so cute to watch on the 51st anniversary, right before he went to the hospital. We never doubted he was proud of the four of us kids, his 9 grandkids, and his 3 great-grandkids, including even wanting to see the newest, Brooklyn, who was born while he was in hospital. And let's see a photo. He was the biggest cheerleader and fan in the early days of playing sports. I can still picture him with his little flip pad, keeping track of the stats. In later years, with his giant video camera on his shoulder, capturing every moment, sports, music, church, academics. We also never doubted his commitment to his faith because he very much lived that out as well. The A in Dad is for analytical and always thinking. You know that each and every mind, you can just see the wheels turning in his mind. Always asking lots of questions as he sought out to, how are we going to improve this situation? He seemed to be inspired by data and spreadsheets. That one didn't fall apart from the tree on that one. His joy of travel and always wanting to learn something new along the way. He loved maps, he loved learning a new road, seeing a new bridge, taking a new route. But with all those miles that he traveled in his lifetime, Johnson County was truly home. And the other D is for doing something for others. Dad always sought out the good in people, truly engaged with people, included them in conversations. He was the type that never met a stranger. He helped however he could, whether it was with his time, his talents, his finances. We're so blessed with so many memories, and our hearts are going to grieve very deeply for a long time because he's not physically with us. But we do not grieve as a family without hope. We know that one day we will see him again. As much as he talked about Johnson County as home all these years, I'm so grateful that he truly is home now in heaven. And what an incredible reunion he must be having with so many family members and so many classmates that have gone before him. Dad was a life so very well lived, one that we've come here today to truly celebrate. And I feel so blessed to have been his daughter. Now, let's get back to that dash that I referenced in each of our lives. I suppose you just never know the true impact that you make on other people. But it's abundantly clear by the messages we received in cards, calls, texts, Facebook posts, that the impact of his dad, Dash, was positive. It was wide, and it was deep. A true life lesson for all of us as we think about further shaping the Dash of our own lives. So in Dad's memory, I'd like to charge all of us. Go out and make your Dash matter. Make it matter most to those that you meet.
Thank you, Gina. Let's pray together. Most gracious God, we are grateful for the life of Richard Leon. Thank you for sharing him with us for a time. For his life of humility and service, for his gentle spirit and kindness, and for his love, and for his faith. We are grateful. But most of all, for the way he served his God, loved his family, and modeled Christ. We thank you. We ask for you to be with his family, especially Carol, she and those left behind, adjust to his absence. But may we all continue to remember him, continue to follow his example, living lives that bring honor and glory to you. In the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, I pray these things.
If you would, please grab one of the hymnals in front of you and turn to page 202 and join us in singing the first and last verse from the hymns.
Gina told you, Richard Leon loved the trains. She told me that he was kind of like a dog with a squirrel, I guess. If he saw a train, he'd pull over the car just to watch it go by. And so for today's benediction, she asked me to read this poem entitled The Last Journey. There is a train at the station with a seat reserved just for me. I'm excited about its destination. As I've heard, it sets you free. The trials and tribulations, the pain and stress we breathe don't exist where I am going, only happiness, I believe. I hope that you will be there to wish me on my way. It's not a journey you can join in. It's not your time today. There'll be many destinations. Some are happy, some are sad. Each one a brief reminder of the great times that we've had. Many friends I know are waiting, who took an earlier train to greet and reassure me that nothing has really changed. We'll take the time together to catch up on the past, to build a new beginning, one that will always last. One day, you'll take your journey on the train just like me. And I promise that I'll be there at the station, and you will see that life is just a journey enriched by those you meet. No one can take that from you. It's always yours to keep. But now, as no seat is vacant, you will have to muddle through. Make sure you fulfill your ambitions. As you know, I'll be watching you. And if there's an occasion to mention who you knew, speak kindly of that person, as one day it will be you. Richard Leon Adams will be laid to rest immediately following this service at Sunset Memorial Park, and the family invites you to attend if you wish.